Hello and welcome to a very special cover story interview. We have with us Manish Tewari, Congress MP from Punjab. He's also former INB minister and a national spokesperson for the party. Manish, welcome to this conversation right in the middle of Punjab elections. I can see that you're very busy campaigning. First of all, what is the mood on the ground, Manish?
Well, it's a very strange election, Priya, because usually elections in Punjab going back to 1967, the first election after the state was reconstituted, used to be a rather direct fight between the Congress and the Akali Dal, and then later on the Akali Dal BJP combined. But this time there are multiple players in the field. See, you have the Congress and the BJP slugging it out on its own, the Akali Dal BSP alliance, the Aam Aadmi Party, the farmers who've thrown their hat in the ring. So it's a very strange kind of an election. It's a excuse me, a multi-cornered election, something which Punjab has never seen.
Which also, before I talk about the other parties, the fight within the Congress, Manish, we've seen the fact that you are not, for instance, on the star campaigner list. Is this all, the politics? We're also seeing the Sidhu versus Channi. But first, I want to ask about your position. Why were you taken off that list?
Well, Priya, not that being on that list is the beginning and the end of life. I mean, some of the names on that list, even their wives would not vote on their asking, but be that as it may, I think those facts are very well known. You see, going back to the August of 2020, when we wrote that letter, there has been consternation between the Congress leadership and some of us. There's been a strain which is very, very well known. And after that, when the Captain Amrinder Singh episode happened, there's a perception that I have a relationship with Captain Amrinder Singh, which of course I have never denied. And if the expectation was that I would start abusing Captain Amrinder Singh like most of his former cabinet colleagues have done, well, that's not really the way I'm built. I know I don't change my relationships depending upon whether a person is in power or he's out of power. So therefore, those I think should be the circumstances. But insofar as I'm concerned, I am campaigning 16 hours a day. I'm doing 16 to 17 meetings a day in my parliamentary constituency of Sri Anandpur Sahib. And those people who put me into the Lok Sabha, it is my responsibility to try my very best to put them back into the Vidhan Sabha. And that is what I'm trying to do. And yes, I have conveyed it to the Congress leadership that I will not campaign outside my parliamentary constituency.
So, despite not being on that famous star campaigner list, you are getting calls from your own constituents, MLAs within your constituency to campaign.
Well, if you look at our social media handle, you would see that we are doing on an average 16 to 17 meetings per day from 9 o'clock in the morning till about 10, 11 o'clock at night, right from 1st of February, today is the 15th of February. For the last 15 days, we've been on the road.
Do you regret writing that letter? Because since then, all of you have been marginalized. We saw what happened to Ghulam Nabi Azad also. He was not on the UP list. He was also, his award was not taken well by the Congress. So is there a feeling that there is no future for you all in the Congress?
Well, absolutely no regrets at all. We wrote that letter in the best interest of the Congress party. We stand by whatever we wrote in that letter. At least I stand by whatever we wrote in that letter. And therefore, insofar as future and destiny is concerned, the future and destiny of politicians is in the hands of the people. The sovereign ultimately have to decide. So therefore, we will take it as it comes. But at the moment, my focus is to ensure that I do my very best in my parliamentary constituency. I owe a moral obligation to all those Congress leaders and workers who put me into parliament to try and do my very best. And that's exactly what I'm doing.
Okay, now a bit about the elections, Manish. First, the fact that the Congress party had to, come up with a chief ministerial candidate. It looks as if it was done under pressure. The fact that Aam Aadmi Party also announced someone, Captain Amrinder Singh, Akali Dal had a face. Is that the reason, or was it the fact that they honestly thought that, they should fight with someone as a leader?
Well, I don't think, Priya, it is appropriate or important at this time to second guess as to what the reasons were. The fact is that we have a chief ministerial candidate. And the fact is that he's, in addition to being the chief ministerial candidate, one of my MLAs. And he's a good man. He's somebody who's come up from the grassroots. And therefore, under those circumstances, he's been given a chance and he should be allowed to prove himself. The only problem is that people within the party, are trying to undercut him all the time. And this creates a huge complication because, unfortunately, Mr. Chani, though he was appointed in the September of 2021, the chairperson of the campaign committee, Mr. Sunil Jakhar, chose to go public in the February of 2022 that he was not made chief minister because he was a Hindu. Now, this is the most unfortunate statement which any politician can make in the context of Punjab. Punjab has had a very, very traumatic experience with partition. 2 million people died between the July and the September of 1947. Another 15 million people became refugees in their own country. And as a consequence of the bloodshed which took place, a very, very strong bond got welded between the Hindus and Sikhs who decided to call East Punjab, or this side of the Punjab which lies on this side of the border, their home. And anyone who tries to weaken those bonds, in my estimation, is the worst enemy of the peace and harmony of Punjab. So therefore, what we have for the first time see playing itself out in full public view is this attempt to create or drive a wedge between the two communities, which is something which is completely unfortunate and uncalled for. The Hindus and Sikhs in Punjab have a symbiotic relationship. And even during the worst days of terrorism from 1980 to 1995, despite all the attempts by the ISI and the Pakistani deep state, this bond never got ruptured. And anyone who tries to play with the social amity of Punjab, primarily because of partisan political reasons, I think indulges in an activity which is detrimental to the security and the stability of our nation.
Manish, we hear a lot of people say the spirit of Punjabiyat is not, Punjab doesn't vote on caste lines or, as you're saying, even on Hindu Sikh lines. But yet we have, the Congress making a big deal of the fact that you have a Dalit Sikh, first Dalit Sikh chief minister. So there is caste coming into, or was it always there?
Well, Delhi has never understood Punjab going all the way back to 1947. And this goes across parties. And the latest manifestation of that was how the NDA BJP government handled the farmers' agitation. Ultimately, they did not know that they had got entangled with people who have fought every foreign invader who came down the Khyber from the 10th century to the 18th century. And so therefore, as a consequence of that continuous struggle, there evolved a spirit, which is summed up in a couplet, ki khada pita laheda baki Ahmad Shaheda, that whatever you eat and drink is yours, the rest Ahmad Shah Abdali will take away. So that level of fatalism, allows you to fight to the finish. And therefore, the NDA BJP government never understood the ethos or the lay of the people that they were trying to take on, and ultimately they had to take the farm bills back. Coming to your question about caste, you see, again, you must understand what is the ethos of Punjab. The ethos of Punjab is ke manas ki jaat sabe ek pehchan, that all human beings are created equal. There is that famous couplet, ki Nanak naam fakir, Hindu ka guru, Musalman ka peer. That is the ethos of Punjab. And so therefore, if anyone thinks that, that spirit can possibly be tampered with or manipulated for electoral gains, I think they are in for a good surprise.
But beyond that, also we've also seen the fight between Sidhu and Channi. Whatever your reservations are, but at least you haven't gone as public the way Sidhu is going. So if he's kept quiet now, his wife is saying that openly that I will support the Aam Aadmi Party. How does that work for the Congress?
Well, I may have differences with some individuals in the Congress party, but insofar as ideological commitment is concerned, I have been a part of this movement for the past 40 years of my life. We've given our blood, sweat, and tears in order to strengthen the ethos of pluralism in this country. So, therefore, if we are not pushed out, then that's a different matter altogether. But otherwise, we have, even today, are contributing our best in order to ensure that that spirit of pluralism gets strengthened. Insofar as what you referred to, ultimately, when you do not have ideological commitment, when your only aim or only objective is that a particular political party is an instrument to put you into a particular office, and when you find that that office has been denied to you, then you lash out in all directions. You primarily are in politics then only to satiate personal aspirations and not because of any commitment. And unfortunately, that seems to have become the grain of Indian politics. What you are witnessing in Punjab, especially, is the complete death of ideology. I mean, if you look at the Aam Aadmi Party, out of 117 of their candidates, I think 80 or 90 are congressmen. Similarly, if you look at the Bharatiya Janata Party, you will find that even a substantive bulk of their nominees are congressmen. So therefore, what you are really seeing in Punjab is a unique case where ultimately any kind of ideology or any kind of commitment to ideology has been buried 7 fathoms deep.
But having said that, we've seen that people are saying that this is a sort of a masterstroke of the Congress leadership in Delhi, using Sidhu to get rid of Captain Amrinder Singh and then using Channi to pipe Sidhu down.
Well, ultimately, the final arbiter of that are the people of Punjab, and they will speak on the 20th of February.
Fair enough. But to go back, to the poll narrative now, I believe the Aam Aadmi Party seems to be gathering ground. Ek mauka Kejriwal nu do. They feel that we've tried everybody else. Let's try him. And it's COVID continuous time, so mohalla clinics have some resonance. Education has a resonance. The Delhi model seems to be working.
Well, if I am correctly informed, today is the 15th of February when we are recording. And Punjab goes to polls on the 20th of February. Till this point in time, no political party, no major player in Punjab has yet declared his election manifesto. So therefore, what you are seeing is a contest of personalities, or a perceived contest of personalities. What you are seeing is a lot of expletives and adjectives flying back and forth, a lot of gully-galoch. But you are seeing an election which is completely bereft of issues. So therefore, the challenges that Punjab faces, and there are 5 challenges which are extremely critical for the future of Punjab. That is, 1, Punjab has a 3 lakh crore public debt. Number 2, 84% of Punjab is less than 3 to 5 acres of land, which makes agriculture an unsustainable activity. Punjab's groundwater has been dropping by a meter a year for the past 30 years. And in some places where water was available at 6 feet, now you cannot get water at 600 feet. IELTS is the biggest industry in Punjab. Every youngster wants to take the exam and migrate abroad because there are no employment opportunities. How do you harness the 4th industrial revolution? The artificial intelligence, robotics, genomics, in order to build a future for Punjab, given the fact that we are at the tail end of the country. And then, we are blocked because of this perennial problem with Pakistan. So neither is manufacturing nor is trade a viable option for the future of Punjab. These are the substantive issues, and they are completely and absolutely missing from the campaign.
Manish, I remember the last elections, towards the fag end, when it looked as if the Aam Aadmi Party was going to sweep, there was a call from the RSS to give the votes to the Congress. So that's what we've heard. So for the BJP, who is the bigger enemy over here? Is it the Congress or is it the Aam Aadmi Party?
Well, that's a question that you have to ask the BJP.
But
Who
as
do you
a-
think is the bigger enemy? But going back to 2017, I think this is more of a myth. This is a kind of a narrative which was created to kind of undermine the fact that under Captain Amarinder Singh's leadership, Congress on its own got 77 seats. Vote transfers don't take place on the ground like this. I mean, somebody sitting in Delhi or somebody sitting in Nagpur, issues a ditkat and votes get transferred. In my experience of fighting 3 parliament elections, this does not happen. But to your larger question, you see, ultimately the real battle is UP, because UP is 80 seats in parliament. I mean, if you look at Punjab is 13 seats. Uttarakhand add another 4 seats, 17 seats. Then if you go to Goa, 2 seats, 19 seats. And then you go to Manipur, another 2 seats. So 21 seats. So that is actually 1/5 of the number of parliament seats which are in contention in Uttar Pradesh alone. So the real battle, if you look at it from a 2024 perspective, is Uttar Pradesh. All elections are important in every state context. But in a national context, if there is a critical election, that critical election is Uttar Pradesh.
Which is okay. So let's talk about Uttar Pradesh. The narrative over there, how do you, I mean, I'm not talking about, I don't think Congress has much of a stake, but generally in terms of how Akhilesh and Jayant want to make it a caste oriented, BJP is trying to make it a fight on religious lines. How do you see that election going?
Well, it is extremely unfortunate that going all the way back to 1987, when this Ram Mandir movement started, politics in the Hindi heartland, rather than being on developmental issues, leaving aside an odd election, Bihar has been on the politics of identity. So some people try and consolidate votes in the name of religion. Others try and stratify it in the name of caste. And that's the template which is playing itself out in UP. I don't think there are any issues in the Uttar Pradesh elections which are really being addressed. An attempt is being made to communalize the environment. Then there's a consequential attempt to stratify it on caste lines. And I think eventually that is not going to take the state forward. And it's unfortunate when you say that the Congress party has no stakes in Uttar Pradesh. I think we are fighting all the seats. And Mrs. Priyanka Gandhi Vadra, who's the General Secretary in charge, I think is personally invested in the success or the failure of the Congress party in Uttar Pradesh.
But Priyanka is also, playing a role in Punjab. Some people are saying that she is coming and she's propping up somebody like Sidhu in Punjab, in Uttar Pradesh. I know one of the reasons RPN Singh left was because of her propping up. He was not happy with some appointments. Jitin Prasad also left for one of those reasons. So is she helping, or is there or is she creating another parallel organization within the party?
Well, as General Secretary in charge in the state, I think, and a state which is going to the polls, every General Secretary in charge of every state is personally invested in the success or failure of the party in that particular state. And it should be no different for people who are looking after UP or Manipur or Punjab or Uttarakhand in today's context. Coming to what you said about RPN Singh, I remember, this was the batch of 2004. Jyotiraditya Scindia, RPN Singh, Milan Deora, and all these
Sachin Pilot.
Sachin Pilot. And so therefore, if some of them have left or the others are feeling neglected, this is a matter which should seriously engage the attention of the leadership.
I remember that interview you gave me when you called them a class of privileged princes or something, after I think Scindia left, and that created a lot of heartburn.
Well, in the sense, my inability to be able to not articulate issues that I feel strongly about, does end up creating a heartburn. But be that as it may, certain things should be said, because if you are in public life, if you believe in certain convictions, if you believe that things are not going the way that they should, then obviously, as a public personality, you have a right to articulate them. You have a right to call them out. As I have called out the fact that there has been a very concerted and unfortunate attempt to undermine Hindu-Sikh amity in Punjab by certain people because of their own purely partisan political reasons.
But which even, the people who are doing it again are within the system, whether it is Jharkhand saying it or whether, so it's the Congress, is the Congress losing an election that it is all slated to win by all these comments in Punjab?
Well, you see, there are certain issues, Priya, which go beyond elections. And in the case of a border state like Punjab, it is extremely critical that we should be very careful and nuanced about how we put things across. You see, ultimately, elections will come and go. People will get elected, people will get defeated, chief ministers will be sworn in, chief ministers will be sworn out. That's how the democratic cycle functions. But if there is any subversion of the foundational guarantee of national security in a border state like Punjab, and that is Hindu-Sikh amity, and if somebody tries to undermine that for purely partisan reasons, I think that's the most unfortunate thing. And such people or such individuals then play into the hands of those who have been trying to disrupt this Hindu-Sikh amity going all the way back to 1971, when we dismembered Pakistan and created Bangladesh.
Here it's not even for partisan reasons, it's for individual reasons. The fact that he raised it was that because he wanted to say that people wanted me as chief minister candidate, but because I'm a Hindu, I was not given the chance. That's the real reason.
Well, in the sense, that's why I have publicly asked the Congress leadership that this should be squelched once for all. That was he denied, as he's claiming, because he was a Hindu? Because this is sending out an extremely wrong message across the state, and this has long-term implications for national security.
In terms of national security, do you feel there is some merit in the Modi BJP argument of the double engine, that the state needs a chief minister that works well with the center?
Well, the BJP is not a player in the state. I would be surprised if they do more than 5 to 7 seats. So therefore, the BJP, I think, is only there in order to try and get a certain vote share to really prove that the prime minister or the BJP is not unpopular. I don't think that despite whatever effort they are making with various deras in Punjab, which have substantial influence in electoral terms also in Punjab, they really are going to get anywhere. I think they are only in this game to prove that they have a certain amount of vote share and they're not completely inconsequential. Back to 1967, except this first elections in 67, which threw up a hung house, Punjab has given a decisive verdict every time after that. So therefore, Punjab understands that you require a stable government for the development and progress of the state. So therefore, the mandate would be a clear mandate. And people also understand that, notwithstanding whatever may be the internal contradictions within the Congress party, the Congress, in the context of Punjab, because of its experience in handling a border state, continues to be the best bet.
On that very optimistic note, thank you, Manish Tewari, for having this conversation with us. And we'll see you again, and we'll come back after March 10th and see where the predictions went. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Priya, for having me.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.